Hi, I'm Joey. I'm here today just to share a little bit of my testimony. Uh, I'm just going to kind of fast forward from the start of my life. I raised up in church. Uh, I'm a preacher's kid, so I know the Word. I raised up in that life. But when I turned 18, I left the church. Just kind of through life's things, I left the church. Spent 22 years outside the church. I want to share 2 points of 2 days in my life that changed my life forever. For most people, Christ is the first one, but for me, it wasn't. To get to where I'm at today, there was one day that changed my life forever, and it was the day that my wife tried to commit suicide. My wife was an addict, and I don't tell her story, but she doesn't hide from her story. So that's the day that changed my life forever. It changed the direction my life went. So long story short, that day in 2015 in March that she tried to commit suicide changed my life forever. It was a point that we hid her addiction, we hid life from everybody. We didn't tell nobody she was an addict. It was just hidden in our home. But that day, everything come unraveled. Nothing was hidden at that point. So, long story short, we ended up back up in church about a month later from the day that she tried to commit suicide. And after that day, we got invited to church, went to revival. And that night we was at church, I went to the altar. Now, I was saved when I was 10 years old. But that night at revival, I met Christ. That changed my life to get me to where I'm at today. We never know where our journey's going to be. I never thought my journey would be where it's at. But them were the 2 days of my life that changed. So I want to get to where I'm at today. Through addiction, we kept it covered up in our marriage, in our home. We kept it pretty much hidden from our sons. She had a pill addiction from an accident back years ago. So long story short, we just kind of started getting in church, getting involved in church. I've never been an addict. I've never been an alcoholic, never been a drug addict. But I had a problem. I had a pride problem. I had an ego problem. I had an anger problem. I had an unforgiveness problem. Though compared to my wife, I really didn't think I had a problem, So as I was going through church and get involved in church and studies and men's groups and all that, God started working on me. He started changing my heart. He started changing my passion. He started just changing everything about me and getting involved in the men's group. We got involved with homeless people, got with the less fortunate, and I got involved in that, and God started humbling me through that process because I used to be the person that didn't have time for them people, and I say them people lightly because they're just like us. I'm lucky, one of the lucky ones that I wasn't homeless or like that. So through that process, when God started working on me through with the homeless people and stuff, and I just got involved in the church, and through that, it ended up leading me around a lot of addicts, a lot of other addicts, and through that process and through the church, I got involved in a 12-step program. Though I wasn't an addict, I was invited to go and do a 12-step, and that 12-step changed my life. My anger issues, my pride, my unforgiveness. It gave me the tools to actually put it on paper and to deal with them issues through a 12-step program. And through that process, it started opening my heart up to addicts and started, trying to figure it out, trying to see, maybe that process of addiction and all that. It's not really where I wanted to go in life, but it's where I was headed. So then through that process, they had a recovery group at the church and got involved in that and started being around a lot more addicts and hanging out and just started loving on these people, man. Just my heart started to get tender and I always call my heart a marshmallow at this point, because I love these people, and I just felt for their pain, and through that. And this whole time, I have a son that was also an addict, an active addict at this time, and I could feel what these guys were going through, and through that whole process, God just started working on me. I had to figure out that this is a journey, and this is a 4.5 year process that God was taking me on through these people and through these 12 steps and through these recovery groups and men's groups and all that. So through that process of trying to start figuring it out, my heart started going out to recovery, and and I could see my life headed in that direction of recovery. Though I wasn't ever an addict, just where I was going. My life was headed, and God was taking me. So it was a little while later that it come up that we had some guys that they come out of recovery that was needing a place to stay. At this time, me and my wife were separated. I had a 3-bedroom house, and it was just me. So, long story short, I ended up taking guys in my house. I had learned so much, up to this point about recovery, and then here I am opening up my home. So through this process, we opened up. I had 4 men at a time that would come in my home, and we just started pouring into these guys. People in the church were pouring into them. The recovery group was pouring into them, and this is probably the hardest time in my life was having these men in my home. Because it was my personal home, and but I got to see the pain and the struggle they have every single day, because I'd wake up with them and go to bed with them and see the struggles they actually had. But these were guys that were smart, they were talented, they was just an ordinary person that fell into a trap of addiction. They was in a hell that they couldn't get out of. They couldn't. We always tell, the cross is enough. But to get these guys to understand that, it's not as easy as we think it could be. It's hard for these guys to understand. And I learned that. This went on for 6 months. I had guys in and out of my house through this process. Several guys. Some of them wouldn't make it. Some of them would. We still have guys today that, they're a success story of just needing somebody to care on them, somebody to love them. That's all they really want. They don't want to be in this place that they're at. They're just caught. So through that, things happen in life, and so that part of my life, that season of my life, kind of ended, and so I have another son that was younger, and I had to bring him home, and he started living with me. So I didn't want to mix the two with my son in the addiction part. So I brought him home, and he had been living with me, and but my heart still kept going into recovery. I just kept pushing that direction and feeling my heart tugging that way. So I was a truck driver. I've been driving a truck since I was 18 years old. It's pretty much all I know. And but truck driving life and being a father and being a stay-at-home dad and trying to take care of my son just didn't work out. So long story short, it ended up I was able to get a job at a recovery here in Hopkinsville. So I started that process of working in recovery. And it took all these years of living with the addict. I lived with the addict for 18 years, and having a son that was an addict, the 12 steps, the recovery groups. This whole time I'm learning. I'm taking all this information in and soaking it in, and my heart is getting soft with these guys. So I ended up getting a part-time job at a recovery place, driving a truck part-time, taking care of my son. This is when you find purpose. That I got to go to work every day and love on somebody. Go to work every day and encourage somebody that was in the darkest place of their life, that had no hope, that didn't have anybody that loved them. They seemed like they had nobody that cared about them. And this is probably the first time in my life I found purpose. That when I went to bed at night, I felt like I was not somebody, but my heart was complete for that day. I had got up that morning and done what God asked me to do for that day. And so I've been doing this for about 6 months now, and I do it 5 days a week, going in and just loving on guys, loving on men that just need a little bit of hope, a little bit of encouragement, and because I found out the hard way that most of these guys don't have that. They do not have people that care about them in a world that's just they're just full of hatred, and we look down on these people, and man, they're just like me and you. We just have to care for them. You know, somebody has to give them some kind of information, because we know at the end of the day the cross is enough. But where they're at in their life today, they don't get that. So for me, I get to go to work and hopefully say something that they can grasp a hold of. That one day, because my job is actually to plant the seed. I very seldom ever get to see a harvest. But somebody has to plant the seed. And for us that work in recovery, for anybody that works in recovery, that's most of our job, is just planting seeds. So I just want to encourage you today to, if you're in that trap of addiction, we do care. We do love you. And there are people out there that is there for you. So I just shared just a small part of my story, because I've had to learn that this is a journey. This is not a race. So no matter where you're at in your life, God wants to use you. I never thought He would use me here, but this is where I'm at. So just thank you for your time. Thank you.